Morant with a running start. Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! Oh, he hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Grizzlies' final preseason game against the Miami Heat. And I'm also going to talk about the team signing Yuki Kawamura to their open two-way spot. Before we get there, just an announcement. If you live anywhere near me, if you live in the Nashville, Tennessee area, come watch the Grizzlies with me and other Grizzlies fans on opening night. This Wednesday, October 23rd, come to Noble's Beer Hall. The game against the Jazz is at 8 p.m. I will be there giving away Grizzlies prizes. So come on down, Noble's Beer Hall in Nashville, Tennessee on Main Street. 8 p.m., come hang out. Let's watch the Grizzlies pick up a win in their first game of the season. Also, if you're trying to go to any Grizzlies game this season or any other ticketed event, look for deals on SeatGeek. If you've never used SeatGeek before, they have an easy-to-use color-coded app that lets you know when you're getting a good deal. Plus, if you use my promo code FASTBreakBreak, SeatGeek will give you $20 off your first purchase. That's same as my Twitter handle, FASTBreakBreak, and SeatGeek will give you $20 off. All right, let's start off by talking about the team signing Japanese guard Yuki Kawamura to a two-way contract. Yuki gets the spot that was vacated by Scottie Pippen Jr. when he was promoted to the main roster. Yuki, of course, is a fan favorite. He is delightful to watch play basketball. Throughout this preseason, he has put together a great highlight reel of impressive passes. He's the king of the no-look pass. Seems like also a very good shooting threat. Now, we didn't see a lot of that shooting threat in the preseason. He had that one game where he made some of his shots. Beyond that, it was not that successful. He only made 21% of his field goal attempts this preseason. He was 4 out of 19 from the field. 16 of those 19 field goal attempts were three-pointers. So 4 for 16 on three-pointers, 0 for 3 on two-pointers. I do think as he gets more accustomed to the NBA game, he's going to settle down and I think become a pretty good shooter. But so far, the preseason was all about spectacular passing, great effort on defense. With his size, of course, he's going to get picked on, but he seemed like he did a good job of navigating screens, staying on the ball. And because of all of that, he earns this two-way spot. So the pros to signing Yuki Kawamura, quite obviously the pros are he's fun to watch and he seems like a great point guard. Seems like he's really good at getting everybody involved. He's really good perhaps at the new offense and finding the cutters. He should be a great player for the Memphis hustle. He could help players develop who are sent down to the hustle. I mean, I don't know who those players are exactly. We think about Jaylen Wells playing for the hustle. Jaylen Wells needs to be on the main roster until Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson come back. So the positives of Yuki, and I'll get to the negatives in a bit. I'm a bit heavy on the negatives. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I agree with anyone saying it doesn't really matter who we signed to a two-way contract. Fair argument. If they need to sign another player who's going to help them immediately, they can just cut Yuki, sign somebody else. Two-way contracts operate outside of the realm of the salary cap. But the signing of Yuki, it seems like, all right, that's fun for the hustle, and that's fun for like internet traffic, and that's fun for posting highlights of no-look passes. But the negatives to me are, what's the upside here? It seems like best case scenario for Yuki is he makes the Scottie Pippen Jr. signing seems superfluous. Seems like best case scenario for me is Yuki takes Scottie Pippen Jr.'s spot, and we just gave Scottie Pippen Jr. this guaranteed deal. Again, I love watching Yuki play, but I think the downside to this is actually maybe a little bit bigger than the positives. Like, I'm okay with the argument that two-way spots aren't supposed to play main minutes for your team, except for the fact that I sat here a month ago, and I feel like most of us came to the conclusion that as part of the Grizzlies going all in this season, while on a budget, while they were doing cost saving on the main roster, one way they were prioritizing winning games was filling their two-way slots with guys who were a little bit more experienced, who could actually step up and help the main roster. We're like, oh, look, Jay Huff, 27-year-old center. That's a win-now player. That's not a developmental project. 23-year-old Scottie Pippen Jr. That's a guy who can help you win now. Sure, there's still some upside there, but that is not just like a raw project. That's an NBA-ready player. Even Cam Spencer, who missed the whole preseason with a sprained ankle. We're like, that's a 24-year-old rookie. He's ready to help. And the reason we feel like we need the players ready to help, because we're not carrying a full complement of players. We have 14 guys on the main roster after adding Scottie Pippen Jr., and we're dealing with injuries. You have Vince Williams Jr. not ready. You have Gigi Jackson not ready. We think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be ready. We also have injury-prone players, Ja Morant and Marcus Smart. I thought we were using the two-way spots to get guys who were going to be able to fill in and help win basketball games this season. If Yuki plays for the Grizzlies this season, I mean, either you hope, best case scenario, it's as a victory cigar situation. We're up by a lot. It was a game Yuki was active, and we burned one of the games he could be used, playing him the last few minutes while we're up by 25. If Yuki actually plays like first half minutes, something has gone horribly wrong. Ja Morant or Desmond Bane or Marcus Smart or more than one of those guys are hurt. And also Scottie Pippen Jr. is hurt. So it seems like if Yuki's going to play in the main squad, that means something went terribly. And then also, I don't know what the upside is for Yuki Kawamura. I mean, he's been impressive. I was impressed by his play, despite the fact he didn't make shots. In the Olympics this summer, he was really good. He had a massive game, if you remember, against France, where Japan nearly stunned France. They lost in overtime. Part of me has to wonder, and I think it's fair to ask this question, like, how far back was this decision made? Did they convince Yuki to come to training camp by promising him the two-way spot? They said, listen, more than likely we're going to promote Scottie Pippen Jr. to the main roster, and once we do that, we're going to give you a two-way spot. But I don't know what the ceiling is. He seems like a better shooting Jacob Gilyard. Jacob Gilyard, probably a better defensive player. Jacob Gilyard, of course, was a steals king. I mean, frankly, Yuki is a much better shooter than Gilyard. Just the shots didn't go in yet in preseason. But what is the ceiling for that player? Is it an NBA roster player? I don't know. And then you ask yourself, what's the most important use of a two-way spot? And I do not know the answer to this. I think a fair argument is to say a two-way spot should be used to develop someone you hope eventually becomes a main rostered player. And a lot of times you're hoping to get guys on cheaper deals. You think you could get a bargain deal, like if Scottie Pippen Jr. develops, like the bargain deals that Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson are on. Maybe you think a two-way spot is supposed to be a practice player, a fill-in player, and someone who's supposed to help your G League team. In that situation, Yuki Kawamura is great at it. And so they sign Yuki, and it seems like the hope would be he doesn't actually ever need to play for the Grizzlies on the main squad. And part of me also is like, this feels like a ploy. It is reminiscent of what the ABA would do back in the day when the bottom line was just selling tickets. Get the guy who has buzz locally. Get the guy from the local college everyone already knows. Yuki drives international traffic. His highlights on social media get tons of retweets. This will get a lot more eyes tons more eyes on Memphis hustle games. Do I think that was a consideration for the decision? I don't know. It does feel a lot like the Derrick Rose signing, where it's like this decision was not made to help the Grizzlies' main squad win regular season basketball games. There were other reasons for this. Now, Derrick was supposedly supposed to help out in the locker room, be a role model for Ja Morant. Maybe Ja Morant's camp wanted Derrick Rose to come in. But it feels more like kind of a circus tactic of generating enthusiasm as opposed to winning basketball games. And again, it doesn't matter who the Grizzlies signed to their two-way spots. It is not going to harm them, I don't think. Like, we're not going to rue the day that we failed to sign Malgina Pereira to a two-way. I kind of like Malgina Pereira because I feel like he can actually help you in a pinch in an NBA basketball game. I don't know if Yuki can do that yet. But they made the decision, and now our final roster heading into the opening of the season is going to be your 14 main rostered players, where you have Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey as the starters. Your bench is going to be Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama, Scottie Pippen Jr., maybe Luke Kennard's healthy, but Luke Kennard, John Konchar, Jake LaRavia, and Jaylen Wells. And then you have two guys still injured, Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson. You have an open roster spot. You're about $4 million away from the luxury tax line. And then your 3 two-way contracts right now, Jay Huff, Cam Spencer, and Yuki Kawamura. So congratulations to Yuki Kawamura. Absolutely an outstanding achievement by him, getting this two-way contract. I love watching the guy play. Will they need this spot actually for help when the season starts? Hopefully not. But if so, it's going to be interesting. And it's also yet another small guard. Just yet another, the smallest guard. Now the shortest and tallest player in the NBA are both on the Grizzlies. So fun stuff there. Anyways, let's get to the Grizzlies' final preseason game. The team lost to the Miami Heat, but most important things, Ja Morant played and looked good. Marcus Smart played and didn't get hurt. Desmond Bane played, looked good. Both Bane and Ja had big first halves. Bane had 14 points and 4 assists at halftime. Ja had 13 points and 2 assists at halftime. He finished an alley-oop from Marcus Smart, although that might have been in the third quarter. I can't remember. He finished an alley-oop from Marcus Smart that basically felt like 2 seasons ago. Very, very exciting there. Zach Edey got the start once again. Edey got a dunk on the first possession of the game. They ran basically a pick and roll. It was a horns set where you have 2 guys come set ball screens up top. It was Aldama and Edey setting those screens, and Ja finds Edey rolling towards the basket for the easy dunk. After that play, though, Edey only made 1 out of 6 of his field goal attempts. By the way, Edey finishes the preseason averaging 12.2 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 1 block per game. If you throw out that Pacers game, it was tremendous. If you throw out the Pacers game, Edey only made 12 out of his 29 field goal attempts, which is just 41% accuracy. But I guess we're not supposed to talk about that. Santi Aldama got the start again. He finished with 5 made 3-pointers. Santi shot the cover off the basketball this preseason. That's possibly a very big deal for the Grizzlies. If Santi can get his 3-point percentage to something respectable, like 37%, 38%, or even higher, I think that's really going to be a huge boost for the Grizzlies. Like, I think the Grizzlies have a lot of X factors this year. We hope Ja, Dez, and Jaren, we know what they are, and they stay healthy. I think Santi's a big X factor for the Grizzlies. Does he get better? Does he make his 3-pointers? So far in the preseason, the answer has been yes. He finishes up 11 for 21 on threes in the preseason. That's 52% from the line. Finished this game with 19 points and 7 rebounds. Another X factor for the Grizzlies, I think it's just Marcus Smart. And what does he look like? Is Marcus Smart still good? Does Marcus Smart give you what you hoped he was going to give you when you traded for him? I wish I had more confident answers to those questions. In this game, Marcus Smart had 5 assists. He finishes the preseason playing 61 minutes. In that time, he had 10 assists and 7 turnovers. He made 1 out of 4 3-pointers. This is through 3 games in the preseason, just about 60 minutes. I thought he played fine in this game. Is he going to be what you need, though? That is still a question mark, I think, for the Grizzlies. Off the bench in this one, Jaylen Wells. He, like Santi Aldama, has also shot the ball really, really well this preseason. He made both of his threes in the first half. He finishes preseason 12 out of 25 on three-pointers. That's 48%. He is now knocking at the door of playing time right behind Jake LaRavia and John Konchar. And he's saying, guys, play me instead. Play me instead. Jaylen Wells had a very successful preseason. One of the top rookie scorers in the NBA this preseason, averaging over 14 points per game. Wells played almost all of his minutes with bench players too. They did not stagger the lineups hardly at all. And I am opposed to that. Generally, I hope that's not what they're going to do on opening night. But in this game, you had the starters, Ja, Desmond, Marcus, Santi, and Zach, and they basically only played with each other. And then when the bench lineup came in, there was a slight staggering, but you still had all 5 bench guys playing at the same time. With Luke Kennard still injured, that meant the bench unit was Scottie Pippen Jr., Jaylen Wells, John Konchar, Jake LaRavia, and Brandon Clark. That 5-man lineup is not good enough for regular season basketball. That's not going to be good enough when it matters. Now, if Jaren's healthy, then Santi will move to that bench lineup, and one of those 5 guys is going to get kicked out. And frankly, I have no idea who it's going to be. You could tell me, obviously one of Jake LaRavia, John Konchar, Jaylen Wells. One of those guys is going to get kicked out for Santi because you're going to keep Scottie Pippen Jr. at the 1. You're going to keep Brandon Clark at the 5. I don't know if that's true. They might just play small ball and have Santi be the 5. They might not play Scottie Pippen Jr. I'm of the belief if Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Marcus Smart are all healthy, you don't really need Scottie Pippen Jr. to play. I'd rather play a bigger player who I think's better. I'd rather play Jaylen Wells with his 6'7", 6'8" frame who can shoot. Give me John Konchar and Jake LaRavia and their defense and rebounding. So I don't know who's going to get kicked out of the 10-man rotation once Jaren comes back. That's one of maybe of the more interesting things to watch for on opening night. But Jaylen has shot the ball well. Is it enough to pass Konchar or LaRavia in the depth chart in the eyes of the coaches? We don't know. Jake and Konchar did not shoot the ball very well. Those guys finished the preseason just 7 out of 30 on three-pointers. That is bad, and it's not good enough. Now, the pushback to any criticism of them and their shooting is the fact that, frankly, they've done everything else pretty well. Like in this game, Jake only had 2 points, missed both of his three-pointers. For the preseason, he shot 33%. He had 2 turnovers and 2 fouls in this game. But throughout all of preseason, LaRavia's had 11 offensive rebounds. He shot 89% from the line. He led the Grizzlies in steals this preseason. He's done good at everything but shooting. Same thing for Konchar. Konchar also pulled down 11 offensive rebounds in the preseason. Was tied for the team lead with 5 blocks. He also made 89% of his free throws. Now, LaRavia gets to the foul line a lot more. But still, Jake and John Konchar both have done everything but the shooting. But the shooting's a big deal. And not making three-pointers, I think, might lead to them losing playing time. And I have no problem with that. If you're not going to make three-pointers, you're not good enough. You're not going to get me where I need to go, which is past the first round of the playoffs. So right now, it looks like Jaylen Wells maybe has earned that opportunity. Just making three-pointers covers up so much stuff. You can be bad at defense if you make three-pointers. You can be bad at rebounding if you make three-pointers. Hopefully, Jaylen Wells is not bad at rebounding. Hopefully, he's not bad at defense. But right now, he's the guy making the three-pointers. So maybe he will get a shot when the regular season comes around. By the way, Edey in this game finished with 7 points and 7 rebounds. The other guys off the bench, I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr., he earned his contract, was not an amazing preseason for Scottie Pippen Jr. In this game, he had 6 points, 0 assists, and 2 turnovers. Also got 1 steal. He finishes the preseason with 18 assists and 16 turnovers. That's not good enough. The other bench players, Brandon Clark had 9 points. He made all 4 of his field goal attempts. And then the other guys who came in basically when they stopped doing their main rotation. I didn't like the third quarter of this one when the regular players were still in the game. I'm too scarred from injuries. I was like, hey, Jaws played well. I don't care that he just caused an 8-second violation on the Heat. Get him out of there. I don't need him diving on the ground in this final preseason game. We got to play the Jazz on Wednesday. But once they cleared the bench, like Armando Bacot got in, he basically played the whole fourth quarter. He didn't show me a ton this preseason. Yuki in this game had 2 assists and 2 turnovers. Malgina Pereira got in. He missed his only 3-point attempt. Mie Oni missed his 2 3-point attempts. Miles Norris, who just got signed, who I'm not familiar with at all, he did make both of his 2 3-pointers. So the preseason wraps, most important things, Ja's healthy, Marcus is healthy, Dez is healthy, Jaren is supposed to be healthy on opening night. Zach Edey looked pretty good. I mean, I think as Grizzlies fans, people are extremely enthusiastic. I don't know if he did all that where you can be that enthusiastic, but he definitely looks like he's going to be a big contributor, and he is going to be a positive player for the Grizzlies this preseason. I think other preseason takeaways, Santi Aldama and Jaylen Wells both shooting the basketball. You feel good about that. Jay Huff had a great preseason as that 27-year-old two-way player. He did not get in the game against the Miami Heat, but he had a really good preseason. Scottie Pippen, I guess, did enough to earn that regular contract, but we are now ready to see if this vision of the team is going to be good enough. We get to see it starting on the road on Wednesday night. You play the Jazz, then you play the Rockets, then you have a home game against the Magic. The Grizzlies play 6 games in the first 9 days. They have 2 sets of back-to-back. So it's a challenging schedule. Now, they're not playing the absolute best teams in the league, but still, it is going to be hard on them right now. And again, they're extremely shorthanded, and I understand some league-wide skepticism for the Grizzlies. John Hollinger picked them to have a losing record this season. I find myself more in the skeptic camp right now. We're just so thin, and we're asking guys to do things that have never, in some cases have never played NBA basketball before, like Zach Edey. And the bench right now, if Luke's not available, with no Luke Kennard and with Scottie Pippen Jr. as your primary backup point guard, and then we're still playing Jake LaRavia, John Konchar. Like on opening night, we're going to play probably both Jake LaRavia and John Konchar. That's not where I wanted to be. It's not where I wanted to be going into whatever year this is of Ja Morant, year 6 of Ja Morant. So I am more on the skeptic side right now, but we get to find out what's going to happen. And we get to see if the new offense is going to be adopted. By the way, really good question from Drew Hill after the game, asking about how much of the offense is necessarily calling the plays versus reacting to what they're supposed to be seeing. And Taylor Jenkins said, that's the game right there. Trying to figure out when you're supposed to make the right reads, when the play call doesn't work, being able to opt out of it, and then maintaining your shape, maintaining your form, having the guys cut where they're supposed to be cutting. And Taylor Jenkins says right now it's not really there yet, but we know the pace is going to be there. The effort's going to be there. The talent is there on that front line. I believe in the starters. I'm skeptical about the bench, but hey, we're going to find some answers very, very soon. And with that, I think we can wrap up this final episode of the preseason. No, that's not true. I'm going to do another episode on Tuesday morning, giving you some of my regular season predictions. I'm going to throw out my win total prediction then. Also, by the way, if you don't listen to Fast Break Breakfast, check out Fast Break Breakfast on Monday. I'll be doing my Western Conference over-unders, so there will be plenty of Grizzlies talk in that one as well. So subscribe to Fast Break Breakfast if you don't. Anyways, if you want to support this program, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Thank you to everyone who joined up for the negative fantasy draft. We did this on Sunday afternoon. 40 teams drafted in the negative fantasy league. It was a lot of fun. So if you want access to my bonus content, you want access to extra episodes, you want to join my Grizzlies Slack channel, do all that patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. You guys have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz!